is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. While the debate failed here in Louisiana, in Washington, there is a push to raise the federal minimum wage. They say that the U.S. needs to stand up for working families who are struggling to make ends meet. Washington correspondent Basil John reports on the latest push to increase the minimum wage.
Nobody in this country can survive on $7.25 an hour.
Thursday, alongside workers and labor groups, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders announced his latest push to raise the federal minimum wage.
You can't make it on $9 an hour. You can't do it on $12 an hour. We need an economy in which all of our workers earn a living wage.
Sanders is now calling to raise the federal minimum wage over a 5-year period to $17 an hour.
15 isn't even enough for what we're going through today.
The last minimum wage bill passed by Congress was in 2008. Do you think it's time to raise it? I do.
But opponents say raising the minimum wage will kill small businesses and spike inflation.
Most of the data shows that the minimum wage does not have a great track record of reducing poverty.
Employment Policies Institute Executive Director Michael Saltzman says even a $15 minimum wage could lead to job loss.
If you do this nationwide, businesses aren't going to have that option to expand in lower cost areas. And so I think you're going to see a rash of business closures.
Texas Senator John Cornyn says because of different costs of living around the country, Washington shouldn't even be involved.
I think it should be up to the states or a negotiated item between employer and employee.
But despite that opposition, Sanders says he's confident he can get the support his legislation needs to pass. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are running out of time to come up with an agreement over raising the debt limit. Some estimates put the deadline at about a month, and last week the Republican-controlled House passed legislation that would raise the debt limit, but it would also implement cuts to spending on programs favored by Democrats and President Biden. The proposal must go through the Democratic-controlled Senate, and here's what our Senator Bill Cassidy had to say about it.
That's why it's important for the president to show leadership. House Republicans have put a deal on the table. The president needs to come back, has to address their deal. If he doesn't like it, give a counter deal. We need presidential leadership.
If a compromise is not reached by the deadline, it is not extended, the government would risk defaulting on loans and will not be able to pay its bills. And the Biden administration is facing the expiration of Title 42, and it would have a major impact on the southern border. Anna Wernicke reports.
The Biden administration is ramping up operations at the border ahead of next week, but some lawmakers say they're concerned Border Patrol isn't ready.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is at the Texas-Mexico border on Thursday, meeting with local leaders and Border Patrol officials as they brace for the end of Title 42. But back on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are anything but confident.
May 11th is a nightmare date for the American people.
South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says the end of Title 42 will cause chaos at the southern border.
There's going to be a dramatic increase in illegal crossings because people are sitting in Mexico waiting to May 11th.
When Title 42 expires, border agents can no longer turn away migrants seeking asylum on public health grounds.
The Biden administration, I believe, is completely unprepared.
Republicans and Democrats say they're concerned border agents and border communities aren't ready to handle the expected surge of migrants.
What's going to happen when we eliminate Title 42? Are we going to have an onslaught of thousands of people seeking asylum in this country, and are we ready for them?
But the Biden administration insists they have a plan. The administration announced this week they will deploy 1,500 active duty troops to the southern border to assist Border Patrol.
They're simply going for to flesh out what is already an existing mission by DOD on the border with administrative tasks, helping with logistics and sustainment.
The troops are expected to arrive by May 10th, one day before Title 42 is set to expire, and the Pentagon says they'll be stationed at the border for 90 days. For now, in Washington, I'm Anna Wernicke. Back to you.
Senator John Kennedy and 9 other Republican senators sent a letter to President Biden urging him to reverse course and keep Title 42 removal authority in place. Kennedy says over the past 3 years, Title 42 has been a, quote, lifeline to the men and women of Border Patrol, end quote. Kennedy says since the initial order was issued in March 2020, this has been used more than 2 million times. And up next, we'll have a look at your week ahead on your local election headquarters.